You've probably heard someone say, everyone is capable of making a game as long as they don't give up. But dog, so far, that just hasn't been my experience at all, fam. And I'm finding that I literally cannot make some of the games that I start. So let's get into it. What's good, everyone? I'm Shinobi, and this channel is about discussing what I'm learning through game dev. This isn't the video that I wanted to make this week, but I need to be honest with myself on this one, and hopefully you'll find something useful in it too. So game dev has humbled me yet again because I had to shelve a project that I was really enjoying working on. Ever since I started making games, I've been in this loop of having an idea, sinking a bunch of time into it, only to realize that at my current skill level, I just cannot make the game. So I shelved the project, reduced the scope, and tried again. And while it's deflating to be back here once again, this loop has taught me two critical lessons. As always, I want to hear your thoughts. So let's get into it. First, the quicker I can figure out if a game is feasible for me to make, the better off I am. There's a number of things that go into feasibility, like budget. Do you have the money to make the game? Manpower. Can you put in all the hours that it's going to take to make the game? Skill gaps, like how much stuff can you go off and learn to make the game? But the one that I want to focus on is time. What defines a reasonable amount of time to make a game is going to vary from dev to dev. Some of y'all are like fresh out of high school with limited responsibilities and limitless time. That's a great place to be. But some of y'all are like me, where you've got a family, a mortgage, a demanding job. Like some of y'all know what this means. I got a kid that's like 1.5. There's just not much downtime. She demands constant attention. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining. I'm happier than I've ever been. But the reality is I only get to spend 5 to 10 hours a week making games. It just is what it is. So to determine feasibility, I have to think realistically. One way I do that is to just live by a hard deadline. Bottom line is, if you're trying to turn this into a career, there's a balance that you must maintain between time spent in development and return on investment. For me, that balance is probably in a 3 to 4 month development cycle. I told myself a few weeks ago, if I didn't have the core gameplay loop figured out for this project, that I need to shelve it until I can give it proper attention. And here we are. But how did I get into the habit of thinking realistically about this stuff? Well, the number one way is just by doing it. You do enough projects, you'll start to learn how much time it'll take to do a thing and whether it's worth doing that thing right now. But another good practical way is just by doing game jams, like mainly the ones that last a week or two, because in those game jams, there's actual consequences for overscoping. It's really a great self-reflection tool, because if you're like me, you're gonna try to go bigger than you should and end up submitting a bad game because of it. Then when the rankings open up, you'll see the best games people made who didn't overscope and realize you're doing it wrong. Like there's no reason why you can't do what they did. And you'll also get feedback on your game too. A lot of it will be like light and fluffy because the reviewers want you to rate their game as well. But there's going to be some sincere, tough criticism that you need to hear. And another tool that I use is actual prototyping. Like prototyping continues to be the best way to determine if I should make a game. And here's how I do it. I give an idea about 10 hours of work. If I can find the fun, if I can kind of see what the gameplay loop is going to be, I'll decide if it's going to get more time after that. But this 10-hour rule also forces me to be honest and consider things I used to not think about, like how many assets is this game going to take? How much will I need to buy or make? Or what are the systems I need to make this game function the way I want it to in my head? And how much time is that going to take? How can I reduce that number? That was a long tangent, but the next lesson I've learned is every abandoned project just gives me more direction because it forces me to acknowledge what skills I need to hone to be successful next time. Game dev really does feel like a craft with endless possibilities, but it requires a lot of discipline to learn and develop the skills needed to make those lofty goals attainable. At the very least, each failed project has highlighted the skills I need to develop so I can work on them. For example, my last project fell apart because the core loop required too many interdependent systems for me to create in a 3-month time frame. If my goal is to run my own indie studio, I need to be aware of the number of systems a game requires and how they'll need to interface with each other. So I need to practice project planning and game design. What better way to do that than to jump into another game? So just from what I've experienced so far, there's always this pull between like the game that I want to make and the game I should be making. A part of this process is being disciplined enough to make the right choice. Now, as always, I want to hear your thoughts in the comments. Keep it up, y'all. Peace.